Welcome. Good evening. My name is Aaron Dworkin. I'm the founder of the Sphinx organization. Thank you, and welcome to Sphinx Tank, identifying the next great cultural entrepreneur. So Sphinx is committed to developing not only the next generation of performers on stage, but also the future administrative and entrepreneurial leadership of our field. That commitment includes the Sphinx Lead program, nurturing all types of administrative leaders, but also this, the Sphinx Tank, which is designed to not only support and prepare its direct participants, but also share with all of you here, as well as those who are watching online, some of the best practices and preparation that is required to become a successful cultural entrepreneur. As a result of this focus, we may ask probing questions and/or criticize the participants who come before us today, but understand that this is within the context of preparing them and all of you for what the expectations are out in the wider world, where we must not only operate, but ideally excel. Each and every one of the people you see today are already extraordinary entrepreneurs and have phenomenal projects that are poised to transform our field. Regardless of who wins today, all of them will receive a minimum of $2,000 in support of their projects. And yes. And Sphinx has asked a national group of highly respected leaders and funders in our field to participate as network partners for Sphinx Tank. What that means, they have committed to meet with all of our candidates throughout the year, mentor them, and share the expectations and demands that will be placed upon them as they work to develop partners and resources for their important initiatives. Our network partners, and we have a few of them here with us this evening, include Awanate Kobina, Vice President of Public and Business Affairs for the Detroit Pistons, Lane Harwell, Program Officer for Creativity and Free Expression of the Ford Foundation, Sharnita C. Johnson, Program Director of the Arts for the Geraldine R. Dodge Foundation, Margaret Leoy, Chief Executive Officer for Chamber Music America, and Bob Lynch, President and Chief Executive Officer of Americans for the Arts. We have one additional network member who I'll mention in just a moment, so you can now, though, get a glimpse of the incredible network that our candidates will have access to throughout the year, long after this session is over. So thank you to all of our network partners for your commitment and dedication to the future leadership of our field. Thank you. So we have 4 outstanding candidates. One of them is a team of 2 co-founders who will come into the Sphinx Tank today and present their projects. Each candidate will have 8 minutes to present their project to our panel. We have already received their written proposals and materials, and today we will hear their presentations and have a 10-minute Q&A with each candidate and ultimately determine a winner who will receive the $25,000 Sphinx Tank Award in support of their project. As we judge their presentations, here are the 5 questions we told them they must answer as part of the presentation phase. What is your project? What have you accomplished so far with this project? Why are you the best qualified person to lead this project? Why does it matter, and to whom does it matter? And if you win, how would these funds make a difference? Is your project sustainable? Our panel will score the participants on the following: how they address these 5 questions, the quality of their presentation style, and their responses during the Q&A itself. There are 4 outstanding panelists, in addition to myself, who will adjudicate their projects. And be prepared, we, like the finals jury of the Sphinx competition, may not agree with each other as we assess and question our candidates, but that is, of course, a reflection of the wider professional field that we all live in. So I have intentionally curated a diverse panel of backgrounds and opinions so we can ideally reach the best results. And our amazing panel is composed of, and please do Google them, they are all incredible, but with our time here, I'm just going to share their basic affiliations. They include Jane Chu, past chairman of the National Endowment for the Arts and current arts advisor for PBS. And Jane has also joined our network partners and will bring her experience as NEA chair, granting over $100 million per year to organizations around the country, as well as her direct experiences raising literally hundreds of millions of dollars in her previous roles, including leading the Kaufman Center. Donald Hicks, founder of the wildly successful technology firm Llamasoft, which he founded from a one-person firm, built it to an over 500-person firm, transitioning that to a valuation in the hundreds of millions of dollars, creating billions of dollars of value for all of their clients. And in addition to all of that, he's also founder and owner of the Blue Llama Jazz Club and a lifelong committed supporter to the arts and to entrepreneurship.
Thank you, sir.
And Christina Pato, Silk Road artist and advisor, globally renowned bagpiper, educator, and composer, and current chair of the Spanish Culture and Civilization Department at NYU. Wow. And Jade Simmons, world-class pianist and CEO of Jade Media Global, which is really transforming our field and our art form. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah. So audience members, please keep in mind that this is an annual event here at SphinxConnect, which you can apply to. So check out the website and consider applying for next year if you have a viable project. So with that, let's get started with this year's Sphinx Tank. Please welcome our first candidate, Portia Dunkley, founder of the Colorful Violin Method.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to my music education class. My name is Portia, and you all will be my 3- and 4-year-old students for the evening, okay? All right. Next, okay, there we go. This is a quarter note. Can we say quarter note? Quarter note. Very good. A quarter note gets 1 beat of sound. Can I hear 1 beat of sound? Very good. And the and the quarter note on the left is what color? Green, and it's shaped like a circle. You notice that? Yeah. Okay, that green quarter note shaped like a circle represents the open G string on our violin. I'm going to demonstrate for you how we're going to clap this, and then I want you to repeat after me, okay? 1, 2, ready, and clap. All right, now your turn. 1, 2, ready, and clap. Excellent! You guys are doing great. This squiggly symbol right here is not a lightning bolt symbol, but it is a quarter rest, okay? That means it gets 1 beat of silence. That means we count it, we don't play it, all right? I'm gonna demonstrate for you first, and then I want you all to repeat after me. 1, 2, 3, 4, shh. Your turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, shh. Excellent. I think we're ready to play. All right, you remember these notes? They represent what string? Come on, class. Now watch out for the quarter note, the quarter rest, because we count them, we don't play them. And for my advanced students in the back, we are not doing the repeat signs, okay? All right, I'm gonna count us in. All right, you ready? 1, 2, ready, and play, 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 shh, play, 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 shh. And look what you guys got, a gold star. I'm telling you, y'all on it tonight. Here's an example of my method. Oh, excuse us. We start together, and we finish together. All right, so quiet strings. Are you ready? Thumb on blue. 1, 2, ready, play. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Portia Dunkley, and I am the owner and operator of Teeny Violini, a mobile music education program for preschools and childcare centers. I am also the creator of the Colorful Violin Method. It's an early learning approach to engaging students in music using colors and shapes in the violin as a teaching tool. When it comes to creating access to quality music education in our country, preschoolers are often left out of the conversation. And this is a missed opportunity to impact a population of our students with a tremendous creative and learning ability. Research studies show that early childhood, a period of rapid growth and development, is a critical point in a child's musical development. And this is why I started Teeny Violini and the Colorful Violin, to address this need, essentially supporting this shared vision of a pipeline that starts at the earliest point. Over 12 years ago, I was inspired with the idea for the Colorful Violin by my nephew Dallas. When Dallas was a baby, he developed a condition that caused him to have developmental delays. And because of this, it affected his mobile, his speech, and cognitive abilities. And so during our time of being together, it got me to thinking about what his musical experience would be like, what would it look like for him to even learn how to play an instrument or even read music. And so this began my deconstructing of my own personal methodology, essentially remixing music notation using shapes and colors. And here you have the Colorful Violin. It's based on a music notation system that I developed that uses colors and shapes only. It creates an easy learning process that is simplified and pattern-based. And it's an easy, relatable way for our students to be able to engage in the violin, as you can see in front of you. So, for example, if you take the yellow triangle with the stem, the open yellow triangle with the stem, means place second finger on the D string. The music notation system correlates to the violin fingerboard, and each color represents a specific string, and each shape represents a specific finger, right? This is Ari. Ari is a central character in the Colorful Violin world. As you can see, she's a little brown-skinned girl with an afro and rocking her colorful violin, joined by her bongo-playing dog, Jeff. I essentially created Ari in the image of my own daughter because I wanted other children like her to be able to see themselves in this character and be inspired to play music colorfully. This is actually the first book in a series of books that accompany the Colorful Violin lesson called Ari Hears Music Everywhere. In a little over 2 years, we've been able to make a significant impact, partnering with over 16 community organizations, impacting over 600 students in our community. Currently, we serve a market of child care centers, public after-school programs, and early learning programs. As the child care market continues to grow, we look forward to increasing our gains in the urban sector. Our future market includes homeschool communities, online content consumers, a segment of the market which is projected to grow about 16.4% in the next 10 years. This $18 billion music education industry creates a unique opportunity for a niche business model like Teeny Violini to scale nationally and to thrive. And as a result of this opportunity, and with your investment of $25,000, we will devote resources to project development, publishing, and distribution, which includes onboarding 10 additional sites, commissioning a research project for the curriculum, designing the prototype violin with a no-fret fingerboard overlay, editing and completing the curriculum and taking it to a new level, and creating training modules and manuals. The Colorful Violin is the curriculum that we've been missing in our music education progression line. How much more effective would all of our programs be if we had a program with an El Sistema inspired approach like this that preceded it? How much more could we pour into our students? Most often, we're introduced to them at the middle of their development. What if we met them at the beginning? Could you imagine the collective impact that we would have? And this is what Teeny Violini is all about, maximizing that pipeline and mining the gap, giving our students the best, earliest start possible, preparing them for the next leg in this music education relay that we are all a part of. Thank you all very much for your time, your attention, and your energy. My name is Portia Dunkley, and this is the Colorful Violin. Now, what do you say? How about we make colorful music together?
So thank you, Portia. Thank you so much for developing this wonderful project. There are some music teaching methods that do involve colors.
Right.
And can you tell us what is so special about your method, and how does it distinguish itself from, why is this the best method
Right.
in comparison? Tell us a little bit about how it's different from, or similar to other colored, use of color in other teaching methods.
Okay, that's a great question. Thank you, Jane. And you're correct, there are other methods out there, but the difference between my method and theirs is that I use the combination of colors and shapes only. There are no letters, so the students actually learn through pattern. It's a pattern-based learning. And this is important because at that age, their whole world is colors and shapes, dinosaurs and rainbows and unicorns. But this is something that they can relate to, and it makes it easy for them to engage and learn.
That's beautiful.
And sorry, everyone, just for the benefit for all of our candidates and their time, which is ticking, if we can hold applause till the end of their time. Thank you. Thank you.
Beautiful. Congratulations.
Thank you so
I don't
much.
know if yes. I just have I'm curious about, you mentioned the idea of a research project
Yes.
in the future.
Yes.
And I think I'm curious about how did you get to there from your own experience as being a teacher, but also what kind of team are you envisioning for that kind of research project? It's
Right.
about learning, it's about development, it's about accessibility.
It's about accessibility and also monitoring the pipeline, and also about seeing what the effect, the long-term effect of starting at this age is. When I actually started 2 years ago, I started with the mindset of, documenting everything, and which I did, but I realized that I need to follow up on my students. I think that's really important to show the value of this project long term. I envision there's a research institution in our region in South Florida, FIU, that does do research music education programs. So I envision partnering with that school, and part of and again, you asked what got me to this point as an educator. I just need to know where my kids are going and what they're doing. It would be great for me to say, oh yeah, music is great and it will impact their lives, but to actually know and to have that hardcore data that this program is working is definitely going to be is significant, I think.
Thank you.
So it's a bit of brilliance to start your presentation sharing it all with us. So well done, you sucked us in immediately.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit more? 25 grand is a fair amount of cash.
Yes.
What's not going to happen if you don't get that money? Tell us about the impact. What specifically is going to happen?
Well, one of the issues one of the challenges, I will say, as a small business owner is being able to expand, have these projects. And I see this as a large-scale project, as a scalable project. Yeah. I feel like it may take a little bit longer for me to get there. I'm at a place in my business where I can see this growing now, and $25,000 would be a huge leap toward helping me realize that vision at this point.
Gotcha. So more like operating expense, kind of
Operating
smoothing
expense.
it out.
Right, exactly. Cash flow is a big thing, and so being able to have that money readily to go ahead and publish and publish and design the curriculum, make it available for the schools in order to have them, the violins, everything costs money. And nobody's taking checks anymore. So.
As you said, it's an $18 billion market.
It is an $18 billion
You got a
market.
lot more legs on this thing.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Portia, first of all, it was brilliant. Thank you so much for your authority. There was so much commitment in your presentation. We can tell that this is something that matters to you on a personal level.
Yes.
What I love about it is the quick start. So I was an impatient kid. I would have wanted that fast start. But you talk about access, especially for communities of color.
Yes.
So I can see you getting them started quickly. Has any of your research covered the transition from color and shape to notes on a page? Are
Right.
you noticing if the students are making a quick transition? Because the last thing we want to do is get them started quickly.
Right.
And then they can't transition and compete
Right.
At the next level. Have you seen
Well,
how
one
that
of the
takes
things,
place?
yeah, one of the things, and thank you for that question. One of the things that I do, or I'm very intentional about, is juxtaposing like what it actually looks like with a lesson. So the kids are introduced to the music notation as it relates to them, but they also get to see what the notes look like, right? So what it actually looks like on the staff, that this is what it is. And one of the things that I also do is, kids, I think, naturally kind of transition, if they have the right sort of path, they will naturally figure out, oh, okay, this is how things go. But I'm always very open with my kids about what things look like. So it's not, okay, everything is going to be colors and shapes. And I think that kids get that message when it's clearly conveyed to them,
Okay.
Thank you for everything that you've been sharing, and obviously it's a very exciting project. As you've looked at it, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're viewing it as an owner-operator, as a for-profit entity.
Yes.
And so in this case, where there's an opportunity for an injection of resources, how do you envision in the future that you'll be able to have a consistent income stream and still be balancing that with the overall mission of what it is that you want to do? Do you have a trajectory that you see where you'll be able to hit profitability and won't need any subsidization? Or are you thinking about a transition to nonprofit?
I have been considering transitioning to nonprofit because of the mission of the project. And just to kind of back up a little bit, when I initially started out, I started this project as a nonprofit, but because of the lack of available resources, I transitioned it into a for-profit because I felt that if I could find a pricing structure that would work well for me and my customers, then it would be a win-win situation. I could do what I need to do and still survive. And then after I've shown certain amount of history and proven myself in the industry, then I could then go back and use that to apply for grants and so forth. So currently the business is profitable. We do end in the black every year, which is great. And so it's self-sustaining in that way. So this injection of funds would actually help to kind of further that along even more. I hope that I will be able to transition the business to a nonprofit, and then possibly see about making the program funded, making a program available free to our customers through funding funding opportunities.
Cool. And just one little quick follow-up to that, because this is always a key question when people talk about early stage and being profitable. Does that include compensating yourself? Because
Yes,
you're
it
bringing
does.
incredible value.
It's just minimal compensation, but it is a compensation nonetheless.
Cool. Great. Cool.
Portia, you mentioned as you were developing this that you were mindful of it. Was your nephew?
Yes, my nephew Dallas.
Have you tried this method with your nephew? Has he been engaged in this, and what did you discover?
Well, when I developed this, he actually started the idea of it, the process actually took me about 10 years to work out. With my nephew, his mobility is extremely limited, and so this instrument wouldn't necessarily work for him, but he was really the catalyst for me to just start thinking about, education for early learners in a different way. Yes.
Have you thought about this on a scale of saying hospitals and as therapy? You
Yes.
mentioned, have you thought about this because there may be more profit too when we're talking about
I'm sorry, can you-
hospitals? I'm saying there may be more profit, as Don was saying, there are a lot of legs here. So I'm curious what your other avenues, I know you're in childhood development centers and daycares. What are the other avenues that you see being able to maybe turn a profit sooner than later? Other venues that you could see yourself going into?
I know I mentioned homeschool communities and online content because I want to be able to develop a digital platform for this. I see a cartoon series, a book series, just creating a character similar to like Dora the Explorer, where kids could really be inspired by music, to play. So there's so many opportunities, I feel like, in so many other industries. And I agree with you, there is an opportunity to go into the hospitals where kids are and be able to impact them like that. Thank you.
Well, great. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so much.
Thank you.
We get to keep these.
I think we are.
And just so all of you know in the audience, there's giant red things that flash at them when their time is up, so it can be startling. Next, we are excited to welcome Maria Elisa and Maria Esther Alvarez, co-founders of the Boston String Academy.
Good evening, I am Maria Elisa, and I am Maria Esther Alvarez, founders and directors of Boston String Academy. And yes, we're twins. The kids we just heard are our students from our youth ensemble, our most advanced ensemble. They were playing La Muerte del Ángel by Argentinian composer Astor Piazzolla. We are here tonight for them. This is a journey that started many years ago in Venezuela. We grew up in El Sistema. We lived the transformational power of music, and it is our life mission to give it to others. When we came to Boston to do our graduate studies at the Boston Conservatory, we noticed that even though Boston is a culturally rich city, there was the need of a program that would go out into the communities, that would accept children no matter their backgrounds or musical abilities, a program that would see creating musical excellence as a communal effort, a program that would engage children and families, creating a sense of respect and belonging. We founded Boston String Academy in 2012 with 20 students. Today, we have 126 students, ages 4 to 18, in 3 programs in 2 locations, in the neighborhoods of Allston and Chinatown. The majority of our students don't speak English at home. They are the first generation of Americans. We provide an intensive string orchestra training for our students several times a week, as well as private lessons and small group classes. We have received recognition from major organizations in the area. Most recently, we received the 2019 Commonwealth Awards granted by the Massachusetts Cultural Council. And in 2016, we were chosen among the 100 most influential people for the Hispanic community in Massachusetts by El Planeta, the largest newspaper in Spanish in the Boston area. In order to expand the opportunities for our students, we do collaborations and partnerships with other arts organizations. These include side-by-side rehearsals and concerts with college students and professional musicians, as well as chamber music classes, master classes, tickets to events, the use of venues, among others. We have made it part of our curriculum to prepare our students to audition for summer festivals. Our students have been accepted by audition into these institutions. It has been such an honor for our students and inspiration to meet and work with artists such as Simon Rattle, Gustavo Dudamel, Arturo Márquez, and Midori Gota. We have received invitations to participate in international music festivals. In 2018, our students traveled to Mexico City to be part of a youth orchestra with children from all over the continent, all over the Americas, and this was organized by the Gustavo Dudamel Foundation. And last summer, we were invited by Orquestra Geração El Sistema Portugal to be part of their summer festival in Lisbon. Now, going back to the kids that you heard at the beginning, we're extremely excited and proud of the progress they've shown during these years. But, however, there is still a potential that they have not reached, and we believe this has to do with the instruments they're playing on. In order for students to move on to the next level of their professional and their musical development, they need higher quality instruments. We then did a trial period for 1 year. We received funding from a private foundation in Boston to rent the highest quality rental instruments from Johnson String Instrument, a local provider. Our students were playing on these beautiful instruments for 1 year, and the impact it caused on them was fantastic. They were more motivated to practice. They were searching their own voices. They were exploring new sounds, and as a result, their level, the individual level raised, and so did the level of the ensemble. So we're pretty positive that this is what they are missing in their development so that they can get to the next level in their playing. And we believe instruments like these could take our students to college. We went ahead and asked our colleagues in the field for their opinion on this matter, and this is what they said. The field knows it, and every professional musician knows it. Higher quality instruments are key to unlock a student's potential. We made a decision as an organization to provide each one of the members in our youth ensemble with higher quality instruments. We have been doing so with partnerships, with grants, with loans from violin makers, financial plans with dealers, and donations, and we're at 84% of our goal. To be able to equip our youth ensemble with higher quality instruments, we need $160,000. We are now at $135,000. We're very, very close to reaching our goal, and with your help tonight, we will be able to purchase the remaining amount of instruments so that 100% of our students in our youth ensemble can play on higher quality instruments. This resonates deeply upon us because of our personal story. When we were 15 years old, we were becoming more serious in our music studies, and our violin teacher told us that we needed better instruments. Then our parents decided to sell one of their cars. They sold one of the family cars to be able to purchase the 2 violins. We were beyond excited. Those violins were the most beautiful thing. I still remember holding it and looking at the back with the perfect wooden grains and the real smell of wood. And then when you played it, the sound was just incomparable. We looked like professionals. And then we worked so hard. We couldn't let our parents down. So those violins opened a world of possibilities for us. We made it into the studio of the most renowned violin teacher in Venezuela. We also made our debut with the symphony orchestras in the city. And eventually, those violins brought us to Boston with full scholarships. Of course, my dad didn't know any of this back then. And then one day, he bumped into Jose Antonio Abreu, who was the founder of El Sistema in Venezuela. He asked how everything was going, and he said that he was very happy, but he was concerned because of the big sacrifice he had just made, not knowing where this was going. And in reply, Abreu put his hand on my dad's shoulder and told him, "My dear, this is the best investment of your life." And that was not a coincidence. That was a major part of Maestro Abreu's philosophy. Inclusion is the basic principle. Our motto is the poor come first, and for the poor, the best instruments, the best instruction, and the best infrastructure. Culture for the poor cannot be a poor culture. If we know the answer, and we know this is in our hands, and we know we can give more, then it is our responsibility to do everything possible to remove barriers and give access to our students so that they can reach their full potential. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much.
Thank you both. And just before we get to questions, also thank you for also doing it without the timer. So just to let people know, we lost our timers, so we just need our timers back. But with that, let's delve into questions.
So I'll ask right away, do you even need this money? Because you guys are awesome. You've already raised a ton of money. You're already cruising ahead. Should we give it to somebody else?
Yeah, we're very close, and we will, if we don't get it, we'll keep fighting to find it. But we feel us as a small organization, we have reached out to the major organizations in Boston, and they tend to give their funds to larger organizations. So as a small organization, it's hard to reach to those organizations. And then also we're contributing to the diversity in the field as well. Like we are doing the work from day one all the way through high school and hopefully to college. So I think it would be a good investment
That's it.
to help Boston String Academy.
Scrap it.
Yeah.
I have a question about, in your proposal, you talk about a color string certification. And is that a certification? It has some overlap with the Kodai certification, right? And so what is the difference? And is this color string certification, is that part of you?
Well, the color string method was founded by two brothers, Geza and Shaba Silvai in Hungary. I mean, they're Hungarian, but actually they live in Finland, so it was founded in Finland. And Kodai was Hungarian too, so it's part of the But the method. they include the Kodai method Yeah, in they their color include it string in the method. color strings.
Okay.
So we've been using it in the past few years with our younger students.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and we want all of our teachers to be certified so they can continue teaching. Yes.
Bueno, muchas gracias y enhorabuena, qué bonito.
Gracias.
It's out of curiosity, but how do you choose the schools that you go to work with, or do they choose you? And I don't know if it is okay to talk about numbers, but what is the kind of investment those schools have to make to bring you in, or the other way around?
Yes. So the first school that we approached was in Chinatown, and they did not have a music program. And there was a lot of interest. So we just went and performed for the students and the parents. Everyone was very excited, so we started that program there. And later on, that was the year before we started Boston String Academy, and then we developed Boston String Academy, and those students are part of us. And then the second site in Alston, same thing, like they did not have a music program, and it was through one of the parents from our other school that was doing another arts program there as well. Yeah, so they reached out to us asking if we were interested in coming to the school and doing it there. Yeah.
So let's say, I mean, it's like Dom was saying, you're going to leave out of here, and whether or not you win tonight, somebody will give you the funds because what you're doing is so worthy and your track record is incredible. The money you've already raised is incredible as well. So let's just imagine that you had all the funding you needed for the instruments, that was out of the way. What is the next big thing that BSA is going to do? What's the impact you're looking to have ultimately, aside from the individual impact of each of the students who come through your program?
We want each one of our students to reach their full potential. We don't want any barriers to stand in their way. So we have to do everything possible for them. And we believe that by doing so, we're paving the way so that they could go to college later on and diversifying the field, like she mentioned. But also, if the youth ensemble is performing at the highest level, is touring around, and those kids are very motivated to go on, this inspires the generations coming behind them. So all the younger kids want to be like them, and they want to practice more so they could be there.
Just a quick follow-up on Jade's question. How do you measure success for the program? Do you measure where they go? Are you tracking all of the students who come through and what then happens to them? Do you pay attention to or track or care about their other academic performance? What are the measures so that in Jade's scenario, and you look, it's 5 years from now and you're looking back, how do you know you were successful?
Yes. Well, academically, 100% of our students going into high school, actually going into 7th grade, make it to the exam schools in Boston. It's very complicated to go to very good schools in Boston, so they have to go to do a test, and everyone has made it of our students. And then we see the progress, I mean, personally, when they're getting better, and also we see it when we hear the results from festivals, competitions. For instance, the Los Angeles Philharmonic, they have the ULA National Festival every year, and in the past 2 years, our students make up 20% of the orchestra. And we believe we are a small organization, but having 20% of the students being part of ours, it's a big deal, and it's a good measure for us. Yeah, it's been the largest representation from any other organization, because this national orchestra is for El Sistema Inspired programs, and and programs with similar philosophy. So like hundreds of kids from all over the country audition for this. And we have sent the largest representation. There have been other organizations with student body like over 1,000 students, and yet we're there. So things like this show us that we're in the right track.
What's after Boston? Oh, I'm sorry. This is going great. You guys are learning a ton. Would you take it out of Boston, other places?
So far, we haven't thought it that way. We want to do it in Boston, and we want to expand in Boston and nurture the communities there.
Yep.
Yeah, if we do, we'll have to change the name.
Yeah, that's a good point. In your beautiful documents, there was, you mentioned something about this being unique within the system in the US. And yeah, what makes you unique?
Well, first, we're the real source, so to say. We're coming directly from Venezuela. We were trained there. And I think we're one of the few that have Venezuelans, who funded the program and working with the kids. We are giving the students individual attention, individual private lessons, and many of the other programs haven't adopted that yet. Some of them are doing it. So this, because of the individual lessons, then it makes sure that the quality of their learning is there. So the quality of the playing of our students is raising and it's coming up. And we feel that we're unique because we combine so many methods that we have learned from our experience in Venezuela, our experience in Boston. We have done training in Indiana University, also in Europe with the color strings. And then I feel like the way we teach, we inject passion to those students. So when you see them play, it's similar to how we were used to in Venezuela. And we make sure that we don't give up. The students have to get better just because. Even though these kids are not Venezuelan, they play with passion. Like when you see them perform, they do.
Please. Oh, I was just going to actually follow up on that a little because you were talking about the teaching. And so I was just wondering if you were, overseeing a grant program and you had an organization that came and said, we're really trying to expand, we want to go to this next level, and so we want to either expand or improve the quality of our teaching because that impacts. And then you had another program that said, we want to do that, but we want to increase the quality of the instruments. Mm-hmm. With that organization, what would you say in terms of that grant committee to say these instruments will create a bigger impact for the students than the quality of their teaching? Because I can only assume if you had $25,000 to impact teaching, it could either be more lessons more frequently or additional teachers or access to master classes or things like that. So could you speak to the quality of increasing the quality of teaching impact versus the quality of instruments impact?
I feel like we're on the right track on that, on the quality of teaching. Like our faculty is well prepared, and then also with all the partnerships, we have access to teachers in other conservatories, Boston Conservatory, New England Conservatory. Actually, we have 3 students being part of the BEAM project that is sponsored by the Mellon Foundation. And then, so we feel like we're comfortable in that sense. But without the quality of the instruments, even if they have a very good teacher, they're not gonna reach their full potential.
Gotcha. So for your organization, you feel at this point, this is the area where we have a weaker point or a place where we can improve.
Yes, that's the next step.
Yeah.
I think there's an undercurrent here, and I'll take the risk of speaking for us all a little bit, that we wonder if you're thinking big enough. We wonder if you see how big this is. And my only challenge to you would be to never again call yourself a small organization, because what you're doing is so big, so universal, and so powerful. I'm not trying to turn you into activists here, but what you're doing has also a social-political implication to it that is so powerful about the power of music. And so my challenge would be to think of yourself always as being up for $1 million, $1 billion, and what would you do with that that would have a sustainable, universal impact, because that's really the track that you're on.
Thank you.
That's my only comment.
Thank you. we're just going to have a brief pause for a quick stage reset, just like 30 seconds or so, and then we will move on to our next candidate.
Maybe we should give
Maybe
these
we
back.
can find
Or do we get to
somebody
keep them?
to take these
I'm
back.
giving mine to my
We
kids.
just-
Give
so
me
we
a
don't break them.
Can you guys grab the instruments? Can you grab the instruments?
You can have one for the low price of
For
$25,000.
$25,000. That's so generous.
Thank you.
And can you just remind them, for some, this happened last time, the timer went off for their, okay, okay, guys, we're cool.
I know you do. I know. I'm just trying to tell you.
Right, I know. Oh,
To
but
be
these
fair,
are very, very nice.
to be fair, I look for coffee first. And they're like, Starbucks is closed. There's no coffee.
Okay, welcome back, everyone, from our brief break. I'm now excited to invite our next candidate, Joshua Leek, founder of Art Explosion United.
Good evening. I'm excited to share with you my passion for Art Explosion United. By the time I was 16, I've been playing the cello for about 13 years. In addition to the arts, I had a special interest in business and social justice. I always believed that my passions for those things were always interconnected, but I struggled to find a space where everything could succeed at once. This is what made me decide to start Art Explosion United. Art Explosion United seeks to bring together young and upcoming musicians, poets, dancers, and visual artists of significant potential from all over the country to promote diversity and inclusion, inspire other young artists, and to give back to their respective communities through performance and creative opportunities. In April of 2016, I decided that I wanted to put on a multicultural, multi-genre music and art festival that would help bring positivity throughout the community. The success of this event is what inspired not only our mission statement, which we like to call the 3 A's, but future events. The first A is artist development, to support our artists in the enhancement of their musical and performance skills by providing performance opportunities, workshops, and exposure to professional musicians in a variety of musical genres. This is exactly what we did during our musical festival. Action within our communities. Artists share their craft with communities who may not have significant opportunities to be exposed to the arts and support social and global causes. We've done this with different Stop the Violence concerts that we've done with different local communities. And last but not least, activism. Artists identify a cause of which they dedicate their time and their talent through volunteer work. We've done this with our Boston group that does Freedom of Black Culture concert, which supports just showing Black art, because Black art is so important. Although we've accomplished so much in the last 3.5 years, as you can imagine, as a teenager, when I started AEU, I was broke. But I had family and friends who believed in me then and believe in my vision now, and provided in-kind support such as equipment, rehearsal space, mentorship, as well as limited funds. So what's next? How do we as AEU think bigger? We see the need for resources, breaking down social barriers, and cultivating an artist's craft not just for commercial success, but for self-actualization. This is what is needed to maximize a healthy arts ecosystem, which allows all artists, no matter their backgrounds, to succeed. And that's why I'm really excited today to introduce to you 2 projects that are going to do just that. The Art Explosion United Jazz Initiative is designed to support and develop minority, LGBTQ+, and women of jazz. Gold Studios is focused on creating a platform that will be accessible to all communities while developing and supporting artists and creatives. So how are we going to go about this? Because that's a lot. Recruitment. We're going to use social media, contacting schools, local groups to help get the word out about what it is we're doing. We've already started recruiting mentors who are going to provide private lessons, run group activities such as running ensembles or big bands, and give private and group tutoring for theory so that our students understand what it is that they're playing. Creative development. We're going to explore the history of jazz. We want our students to truly understand what it is they're playing. And performance. Students are going to apply everything that they've learned into a professional performance setting. We had kind of the same ideas for Gold Studios in terms of our recruitment process. We're going to, again, use our networks of social media and contacting schools and local groups to let them know what it is that we're doing. Mentorship. We're going to work with each of our artists that we recruit and help them set attainable goals throughout the year. Creative development. We're going to help our artists build content by providing them the resources such as rehearsal space, studio space. Some students need Finale or Logic or the different things to record. Professional development. We want our artists to know that the art side is important, but also the business side of what they're doing is important. So we're going to help them build their business and build their brand. And once again, distribution and performance. Artists are going to put out their work professionally. So why does Art Explosion matter? It matters to the artists that may just want to come into a non-judgmental space and just create with their friends or their family or people they want to meet. It matters to the parents that may not be able to afford the equipment to help their kid, or the adults looking to give to the next generation of art. And institutions such as schools and local organizations that are looking for outside help or looking to connect with who we are and what we're doing. When I was 16, I also had the joy of working with Dr. Tanya Carey. Dr. Tanya Carey was my private cello teacher at the time. Back then, I was ridiculously stubborn. I didn't want to do the work. I didn't want to be pushed. I felt like it was just too much coming at me at once. But one of the things that I learned from Dr. Carey was all about really putting in your time, and I also noticed how much she cared about my craft and about my development. This is what I've had to apply to my leadership skills. And so when working with this fine group of people over here, I always think about how, Dr. Carey gave so much to me because she cared so much about what I was doing. And that's what I want to give to these group of people. I believe that in order for art to work, we have to work together. And those are some of the values of AEU. We're a team. We trust each other. And most importantly, we're a family. We eat together, we sleep together, we do all sorts of things together, we travel together. It's so fun being in this family, and I want to do everything I can for them. So, we have come to the end of this presentation, and I was trying to decide, how do I want to end this presentation? I decided that I wanted to show just a little bit of what we do best, and what we do best is perform. This piece behind me is Tree Roots by Vincent van Gogh. The song we're going to be playing is called Nile, written by Beyonce and Kendrick Lamar. We wrote our arrangement based off of this painting that you see behind here, and so we really hope that you enjoy Nile.
Is that cheating to make people feel like that?
So Joshua,
Yes.
you wrote in your proposal some of the ways that you wanted to get artists to be able to get their work out. And
Yes.
one of the ways is to have access to your web store.
Yes.
Tell us about this web store. What is it and how do they, what do they do?
So essentially what our artists would do, first we've built a web store that would be available to everyone. I think one of the biggest things is, it's so hard with streaming and all these things to make everything available to everyone. So we want to put together on our website a web store that'll be completely free to at least access. And the artists are going to work with us to give us their work. We're going to put it on a web store, and any funds that we make, we will split it half and half with them. So they're receiving some, and we're also getting some so that we can make a profit as well. And
So
continue
people
to
can
work.
go and pay for their creation.
Yes.
And they get a cut.
Yes.
And you do, the organization gets a cut.
Yes.
So would this grant help you implement all of that? Do you need more?
The grant will help implement all of that.
It gets you all the way there?
Yes.
Cool.
I'm looking at your budget, and it adds up to $20,945, and we're giving $25,000 here. In that budget, though, you're not paying your student mentors. You want to have 3, I saw in the implementation phase, right?
Yes.
You're getting 3 people in different categories to start out with the mentorship, but I don't see in the budget where you pay them. Are you expecting them to be volunteers?
Our students, our 3 mentors, have actually already volunteered themselves to be a part of the program to start. In addition to that, hopefully, eventually down the line, we'll be able to pay them with the amount of work that we're doing. But everyone that's in Art Explosion United is a volunteer.
So I'm curious why, with that little bit of money left over, why you didn't implement paying them right away. So my concern is for all the artists in the room that are used to doing stuff for free, the glow of the volunteer work will wear off. So have you thought about like kind of the timeline of when you would start paying people so you can still get the commitment
Yes.
that you need?
Yes, ideally, within the next 2 to 3 years, we would like to make enough income to pay people. Obviously, with the amount of concerts that we'd be doing and everything that we do with the program, we're just not at a point yet where we can pay everyone and pay our bills for the website and everything that way. We're also looking at rehearsal spaces for us to be able to rent out. So right now, we're all on the understanding that it will be volunteer for a little while, but we are trying to initiate a plan where we would be able to pay our volunteers as well.
Okay.
But I will say that everyone that has volunteered truly believes in what we're doing, and they want to see this through as far as they can, and hopefully that'll get us to our next point.
Just a little quick follow-up on that, because I've seen a number of transitions from volunteerism to paidism. And what I'm curious of is, do you have a plan for that? In other words, when there's no money, in some ways it's easier for everyone to be committed and volunteering. Then all of a sudden, when there's a small amount of money, who remains a volunteer and who starts getting paid becomes kind of dicey, and often you may lose volunteers who, when they see others being paid. So what I'm just curious is, do you have a plan for how you're going to make that transition? What will the paid roles be within the project?
I think the paid roles will really be, number one, those that are working in leadership roles. Obviously, there's so much going on that we need to break everything down into different teams. I think the best way to do it is assigning those that are going to run those teams and having a payment for them, and then breaking down the volunteers then into the people that are working under those people. That's what I think has worked well in the past with us, for people that we have paid for what we have needed. So that's kind of the start to my plan. I thought a little about it over time, and I'm still waiting for the thoughts to come.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think it's very powerful, the idea of believing in the collective and about learning from each other and giving back even when you are in a college environment. Thank you so much. I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
One is, and forgive me because I may have not understood this well. One is about, is this a non-profit or a for-profit? And the other one, depending on the answer, could be, how do you think this could be sustainable? And this question is coming from a person that belonged to the pop rock music industry in the past and seeing the changes and the amount of money you end up not making in the process.
So first off, it is a nonprofit organization. And then to answer your second question, we hope that we put on about 10 to 15 performances a year, and that's just between our Chicago and our Boston group, and we really want to expand that. So we're hoping that with the number of performances that we put on, we've not charged ever for a performance. We would like to start charging our performances, and hopefully that'll be our income. We also want to set up a dues system within our membership, so that we have continued money coming in monthly, even just like a $10 dues system. There's enough of us that would help us sustain our bills and help us sustain income throughout time.
And just a clarifying question, the Gold Studios, so that's just a different level, right? Like it's just a different level of professionals
Yes.
being the mentors to the...
Yes.
Okay.
So essentially our artists that we have now, they're going to rise to a mentorship level because we've been training them for 3 to 4 years. And we want to bring them to a mentorship level so they can train our next group of artists.
Thank you.
And sorry, just another quick little follow-up to that. As a nonprofit, do you have your 501c3 status?
We would like to get that secured. We've been operating just as a non-profit over the past 3 years, but we would like to finally get that fully together.
So over the past 3 years, then you've been able to figure out what works and what doesn't.
Yes.
Have you already decided what is success, how you're going to measure success, or how have you been measuring success? Is it just at this point the dollars that you can bring in, or the number of people, or what? How do you measure success right now?
I like to measure success by first, again, we're a family and we're a group, so we're very open about how each different thing that we're doing goes. I personally like to measure it from how are our artists doing and looking at what they're doing and seeing, okay, what can we do better for them? For example, with our Freedom Show that we do with our Boston group, the very first year we had it in the basement of our school. And after that, I looked at, one on my end, okay, what can I do better as a leader? And then on their end, how can we continue to help develop artists and make this a bigger thing? And so then going into year 2, we were able to take what we did then and edit things and make ourselves better. So I like to look at it from the artist's perspective and not necessarily as the dollar, because to me that's not as important. I really care about their success and their progress.
I actually want to follow on with Jane's point here. Sell us on your vision. How big are you thinking? Paint a picture for us, where you want to go, where you want to take it.
I've always believed that Art Explosion United has the power to be a global cause. I believe that we should be everywhere, bringing artists everywhere. We should be sending our students and our people all over the world to work with artists, because I believe that we have the power to truly be an artist development company while also being a production company as well, and really training up these artists and sending them out into the world. I want my artists to go out and I want people to say, oh, they're from Art Explosion. So I know that they're good. That's what I really want it to be. I always believe in excellence, and that's what it should be.
There's the passion that was in your playing.
Yeah. You have mentorship involved in this. What kind of career development are you offering for your artists? Is that part of the mentorship?
Yes, so we want to, help them build their brand in the sense of helping them understand things such as going into contracts and the legal side of business. Because I feel like as a musician myself, before I went to Berklee College of Music, I didn't know how to look at a contract and say, okay, do I understand all of this and what's being said? So we want to help them on that, and we want to help them understand how to properly distribute their work. And also be able to just talk to artists that are advanced and have someone to speak to, because I felt like as well, going into Berklee, I was lucky enough to have Patrice Jackson-Tillman as my teacher, and I was able to talk to her about real things in the music industry because she's Patrice Jackson-Tillman. And yeah, it's kind of like that relationship that we want to build with our mentorship program.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, how's everyone feeling? Woo! All right, so we will now be ready to invite our fourth and final candidate, and then after that, we will briefly deliberate. So now please join me in welcoming Gabrielle Molina, founder of Teaching Artists International.
What a pleasure it is to be here. And thanks to all of the panelists that have been here and all of the other competitors. So I want you to think about a time where you experienced a new culture, You went to a new place, and you really leaned in to adventure. I want you to think about a time where you were sharing some knowledge or a concept, and then all of a sudden, it just clicked for the other person. I want you to think about a time when you were experiencing music, whether you were performing or listening, and then all of a sudden, that deliciousness of just being one with everybody else with you, that the hair on the back of your neck stood up. All of these moments of human connection and transformation, this is what Teaching Artists International is all about. So Teaching Artists International, what is it and who are we? We are a nonprofit organization, and what we do is we create fellowships for musicians, music educators, and teaching artists just like you. And what we do is we partner with NGOs all around the world who are working to empower youth and support them through music. So we have fellowship programs where we take and we create a performing and teaching cohort. And then we go to this place, and while we're there, we're really fully engaged with our partner and what their partners need. So I want to take you through, if you're a fellow, what does that really look like? How are we really making a change? How are we creating our impact? So our mission is that we really want to develop global citizen musicians through these artistic exchanges that empower youth and support music education all around the world. So the first component, travel. Right now we have partners that span 4 continents. Our fellows, they come from, right now, predominantly the United States, but in the future we hope to have leaders from all over the world who come together in this cohort to a particular place. Next part, teaching. This is so critical. As a fellow, you get the opportunity to have hands-on teaching experience. Whether that's leading workshops that you get to design because you're so passionate about a topic, or you get to give private lessons, or you're leading sectionals, or you're running rehearsals. But this is the way that fellows are really connecting with the youth on the ground. Performing. When I was a musician growing up, I wanted to have this international performing experience and exposure, and I didn't know where to go. And this is one of the big reasons that I started Teaching Artists International. It's really just kind of scratch my own itch. Performing. So when fellows come, they get to gain international experience, and they get to perform for the community that's there with the NGO partner. They're also performing alongside the teachers and the students. And ultimately, what we want is we want a transformation. We believe that doing this work is really promoting intercultural dialogue and global citizenry, because ultimately what we want is a more understanding and democratic society. So here are a few of our milestones. We piloted in Peru, then we became a 501c3. Then we launched our digital media fellowship, which is actually for young creatives to come help storytell what we do on the ground. Then we took a trip to Guatemala at the height of the caravan. And in 2019, I decided that I wanted to take this venture, and I applied to Harvard. Then we were in the Balkans this past summer across Bosnia-Herzegovina, Serbia, and Croatia. Then I applied, and we got some support through the National Art Strategies to really support this venture. Then we decided we wanted to really introduce faculty into our programming. And so now we bring faculty along to help curate other experiences and workshops for our fellows. Then we went to Eswatini. Then we went back to Peru. And then we were accepted into the Harvard Innovation Lab, which is for entrepreneurs who are all across Harvard. Of course, now we're here at Sphinx, which is so exciting. And we've recently been announced that we're in the President's Innovation Challenge, which is for entrepreneurs all across Harvard who really want to tackle social issues. And our last milestone is that we've finalized our 2020 partners. So where are we going? Oh, before. Milestones. This is the too long didn't read. In the last 18 months, we've had 7 fellowships across 4 continents. We've had 28 fellows. had 2 faculty. We've engaged about 2,600 youth. And in 2020, we have 5 fellowships. Our 2020 Our 2020 locations are in Palestine, back to Peru, back to Eswatini. We're expanding to Haiti, and we're going back to Guatemala. This is our team. I could not have done this by myself. And I want to just draw your attention that all of these people, they're all women. Predominantly, they're all women of color. And you can't tell this, but 66% of us are LGBTQ identifying. About me. So as I mentioned, I'm currently at Harvard. I took this venture to Harvard because I needed to have a bigger network. I wanted to drastically improve the chances that this nonprofit would actually survive. I'm also a faculty member at my alma mater at Laundry School of Music, of Bar College. That's right. Before this, I was a public school music educator in Los Angeles. I'm also a credential teacher in Connecticut. Before that, when I built the blueprints for Teaching Artists International, this was through the Global Leaders Program of the Youth Orchestra of Americas. Before that, I was a nonprofit leader in an El Sistema-inspired nonprofit program. And what I majored in was music, Spanish, global studies. I just wanted to do it all. I couldn't pick. And then after, I went to Laundry. And this is where I had a teaching degree where I really looked at music education through the lens of social justice. Wow. So, if we're selected, I'd like to use this money for 33% to capacity build for the organization. I want to build new programming. The other 33% would go to stipends. We really want to pay, I want to pay myself, I want to pay my team. And the last 33% will go to you all, the applicants, as scholarships, so that way you can engage with this programming. Here are a few pictures. And before my time runs out, we would love to hear from you. If you are interested in applying for our fellowship programs, you want to connect with us, you want to chat, please hit us up on Instagram. I will be here. I have swag. And thank you very much. It's truly an honor.
Gabrielle, you talked about in the fellowship there's travel and performing, and then you said basically ultimately it's about transformation. So
Absolutely.
what are the signs of transformation? What do you look for to see that it's happened?
For sure. So when fellows come, we are asking them to engage with us to not only spend time and money and energy and effort, that they're pushing themselves out of their comfort zone. So there is a pre-selection in the type of person who would want to come on a trip, right? But our faculty have done such a great job that they give our fellows teaching feedback, and they come and they watch. And then at the end, you can kind of see that not only within the cohort, there's a cohort of friends, there's also this community that has formed with our NGO partners between the students and the other teachers and also the admin staff. And then many times, all of them, they keep in contact. And a lot of times, there's still Skype lessons that have to happen afterwards. And so really what we're wanting is this transformation. So when you go back into your community, this idea of othering that we have in the world today when we look at somebody else who's different, that we really would want to diminish that. So,
you wanted to what?
we want to diminish this idea of othering.
Yeah, thank you.
Let me follow up because I was curious what, and you speak in such powerfully lofty terms. I love that your vision is really global in a sense, but I'm curious, how does the world benefit from having your fellows in it?
Absolutely.
So they've gone through your program, because this is obviously, it's more about the fellows, even more so than the communities they're impacting.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, for me, like, I started with this, I traveled the world and I built case studies in order to see what were the similarities, what were the common threads of what we could actually do when we engaged. So I was in Europe, I was in Africa, I was in South America, and I wanted to see what does that really look like. And so, you know, from the value add from their side is, of course, they're having professional development for their teachers, for their staff. They're engaging international artists. We are the digital media fellows. I turn over all of that media that they can use on their website, free of charge, whatever they want, if they want to fundraise with that. But for our fellows, we want to have an alumni network. This is part of the capacity building that we want to use the funding for, to make sure that we still have a network and supports for what that looks like afterwards. Yeah.
Beautiful, congratulations.
Thank you.
Really beautiful. I have a few questions, if you give me permission for all of them. First of all, in your papers you say we provide musicians the 21st century skills, right?
Yeah.
In order to develop their cultural intelligence, enhance their teaching capacities, and provide international performance experience. So my first question is, what are those 21st century skills?
For sure, for sure.
The second question, which is connected to that, is how do you prepare your fellows to go out into the world and do this work? And the third question...
I might have to come back and ask.
Sorry, I got really excited. This is a beautiful project. The third question, I think, is connected to what happens after. How do you come back to the US? And as an immigrant to this country myself, there are so many invisible communities to the others here within this own country that I wonder if there is a way back, like if there is a US program that you can bring this international global vision.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe I'll work backwards, and maybe you can remind me of the questions
were
if I forget.
connected, so sorry
I
about
intentionally named this Teaching Artists International, and I don't mean that from just the US perspective. International is relative to where you are. So I envision that I will take somebody from China, somebody from Guatemala, somebody from Swaziland, somebody from the United States, and we will go somewhere all together. That this is truly a global, international cohort. I don't just mean for the US. And so maybe we are traveling to the US, and we have everybody else who's come from around the world. And then can you ask me the second question?
Yeah, although that question was also connected to US citizens working in US communities that they may not be so familiar with.
Yeah, absolutely. So a part of this comes from my experience as a public music educator when I was in Los Angeles. So I saw about 700 kids a week as an elementary ed teacher. And I was in 2 Korean schools, 1 Japanese school, and 1 Armenian school. And so when I talk about developing these 21st century skills, the way that I would interact with those youth that come from different places all around the world, and they're all in my classroom, that is from direct experience of me having had the great fortune of traveling around the world, of knowing what it's like to be the other, and knowing that I don't want to have that in my classroom. And so I think that these types of experiences for classroom teachers or for musicians who want to work in different communities, that to be culturally responsive, I think these types of experiences, they're absolutely transformational, and they are essential.
And the last question was, how do you train your fellows?
Yeah, absolutely. So the curriculum is a big part of this, and part of my capacity building is that I want to dig deeper into our curriculum. One of the reasons that I came to Harvard was that I was trying to snatch some Harvard faculty and hopefully come along with us. But can you ask me the question one more time? I totally went blank.
How do you train your fellows?
Yeah, absolutely. So we go through a curriculum, and I work really closely with our faculty and then also with the alignment of our NGO partner. So I want to make it really clear that I don't want to have a drop-in type of program, and this is our partner and this is us. No. We're working hand in hand. I ask the partners what they need, the instrumentations and the teachers. That is all decided from the partner side. We are really the connecting platform on that side. So depending on what the curriculum, it kind of changes based on the needs of what the NGO partner is, because also the teachers and the staff, they're also engaging with our workshops that our faculty have curated. And that can range from just basic curriculum building to classroom management, to culture responsive teaching, to trauma-informed teaching. So a wide variety of topics, and it's kind of guided from our partner side.
I actually have 2 comments, not questions. I know we're supposed to ask questions, but one, I just got to say, I love it when you're leaning in on the value of international connections. Don't back away from that. You're so onto something now more than ever.
Absolutely.
Sell on that. Stick with that. And then my other comment is, you let me know when you start your congressional campaign. I've got my check.
So a couple questions. Thanks for that.
I'm not kidding.
All right. He's not. So one, in your narrative, you mentioned, and you use the words, not being an implementing organization.
Yeah.
Could you kind of just speak to that a little more, and the idea of if there's a funder looking and saying, well, with this organization, should we not just fund the organization's implementing, rather than how do you view yourself, and what's the added value that you're bringing to the equation, which is why those with resources should direct them to you?
Sure, absolutely. And so we are really trying to develop the capacities from our fellows' side. So like I had mentioned, this idea of being an implementing partner in the sense of we are not the NGO that's in Eswatini. We're not the NGO that is in Guatemala. We're not the NGO that is in Serbia. They are our partner. Our program is about you and me as fellows, as developing those capacities to really be a global citizen. And so that's what I mean in that we're not implementing the work itself that's happening. I think that that's really disrespectful because communities know their homes best, right? I want to develop the capacities of you all as leaders, right, to come home into your own neighborhoods. But I don't want to go somewhere else and tell them how to do their work. That's why I asked the question, what do you need? The curriculum gets built from that question of, what do you need? How can we help you? How can we support you?
Thank you
So
for
does
that.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah, no.
I was just going to say, so does that mean every time you go into a new space, you're going to have to stop and develop new curriculum for each space? How much time does that take?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a great question. And so, I've kind of given myself like this 5-year timeline of we are really kind of courting partners. But like I said, I don't want to be a drop-in type of situation for these programs. I want to cultivate long-term partnerships and relationships, which is why we were returning to the communities that we first started and partnered with. Now we're starting to expand. But I want for us to be able to go back to those same communities. I'll bring a group of fellows to Peru. This will be our 3rd time going. And so that curriculum probably won't change. It might change based a little bit on the needs of that NGO partner. But the curriculum itself, right now, that's hard because we're building it out as we go. But for now, in the future, I don't see that that's going to necessarily be the thing that we're like heavy lifting on.
And just a budget question
Sure.
too, and if you could just kind of speak to it, because a lot of times, funders also look at the, not necessarily dollar amounts, but the percentage of budgets allocated to salaries or administrative costs, those types of things. And it seemed in your budget that there's the vast majority is really salaries rather than various other programmatic expenses.
Yeah. I should also say I sent a very aspirational budget to you. To date, we're a program we've been operating for 18 months, and we have earned revenue that's about $6,000.
Okay.
So this grant would be like, woof, that's a lot of money. So in terms of allocations, of course, I want to pay myself, I want to pay my team, and I want a capacity build. We don't have a building, we don't have a ton of capital expenses like laptops or computers. And we're not necessarily bringing funds that are necessarily to our NGO partners, and so that's really why the vast majority of this is human capital. We are trying to build curriculum. We're trying to take leaders and cultivate them in a different place around the world. We're paying our faculty. So I really believe I want to pay my team fairly, and I want to pay them for what they're worth.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. So now our panel will briefly deliberate, and while we do, I will ask one of the leaders in our field, Garrett McQueen, who hosts Music Through the Night and is the founder of Triloquy on American Public Media, to come to the stage, who will lead an interview with one of the winners from last year's Sphinx Tank, Cameron Anai Williams.
Good evening, everyone. Last year, I was so inspired by Cameron's presentation of the book Kinderloot that I knew I wanted to do what I could to make sure more people knew about it. So in an effort to engage children and their parents, one of the many initiatives at American Public Media is a monthly project called Classical Kids Storytime. And I knew that Kinderloot would make a really incredible addition of Classical Kids Storytime, so I brought it back to Minnesota, pitched the idea, and we made it our back-to-school edition of the series back in September. So I thought I would share an excerpt of that edition with you. I had the pleasure of voicing it alongside my colleague Valerie Kaler. The four friends are very happy that their new owners are taking such good care of them. Now they don't have to worry about being hurt anymore and can enjoy the beautiful music they make with their owners. Wait, don't forget about me. Bowing. The bow is used on the violin, viola, cello, and bass to help make beautiful music. Bowen also wants to make sure each musician knows how to take care of him, too. Bowen says, "Please don't touch my bow hair, because that will make my hair very oily."
You got it, buddy.
My bow hair can't be too loose either, because my hair will separate from the frog.
Okay, we won't do it.
If you turn my screw too tight, my stick will snap.
That makes sense.
The young musicians are now able to take care of their instruments and the bows while learning how to play beautiful music. The end. Thanks for listening to Classical Kids Storytime from APM, American Public Media. So if you would like to check out some of our other editions of Classical Kids Storytime, just visit yourclassical.org. If you want to see the rest of the web adaptation of Kinderloot, you can visit YouTube and just search Kinderloot. So Cameron, first and foremost, thank you for allowing us to create that web adaptation. It was really impactful in St. Paul and across our network.
Thank you so much for doing it. I mean, it's so incredible. I'm at a loss for words, actually. I remember watching it for the first time, and I was like at home. I think I was with my brother and sister maybe, and everyone was so excited, and it was just it was a great thing to be a part of.
Yeah, actually, I think your mom posted a reaction video, and I have to say, seeing your little brother watch that video and react to it, thinking about the fact that from such a young age, he sees himself in this classical music and in this culture in an authentic way. I mean, that is incredibly moving for me. That must be an incredible feeling for you as well.
Yes, and I mean, that's definitely what Kinderloot was striving to do. You notice all the characters, the kids in the book, they're all of color. And I know for me, growing up, I never saw a book where they were, little black girls with dreads in them. So I think that was another rewarding experience as well.
For folks who weren't here at last year's Sphinx Tank, or maybe aren't very familiar with Kinderloot, why don't you tell us where the idea came from and the development of Kinderloot?
Yeah, so Kinderloot is an initiative from my foundation called Kamine Strings, which I started when I was 14. The instrument that I currently play on, I was trying out new instruments, and I found this instrument, and I was like, wow, this is the one, this is it. And my parents actually, they had to send it back because it was really expensive. And like a week or so later, I came home from a rehearsal and I saw a case on the couch. I opened it up and it was that viola, and there was a note inside that said, "You are now the proud owner of this viola." And it was absolutely amazing. My grandmother had actually bought the instrument for me, and this had me thinking about, there are probably a lot of other students out there that have so much talent and are ready for that the next step and getting a better instrument. So that's where Kamine String started. And what we do is we take instruments and we repair them and donate them back out into the community. And so I'm currently in my second year at Juilliard for viola. And thank you. Yeah. And so before I started college, I wanted to go out and sort of give some sort of speak with students about taking care of instruments, because I don't live at home in Florida as much anymore. And so with audition season and all the concerts and performances that were coming up, that didn't seem to be a very tangible option. So we created Kinderlute. And I created Kinderlute with my younger brother and sister, Music and EJ, during the first semester of my first year. And then I did Sphinx Tank a few months after. And then with the money from Sphinx Tank, we were able to launch the book on June 1st of last summer. And yeah, it's been a really, really great experience with the book and just seeing all it's done within the community.
Yeah, and something that I find really incredible about the development of Kamine Strings and Kinderlute is all of the family involvement. It really is a family project. Talk to us a little about some of the help you got in developing the pitch for Sphinx Tank and making sure that you are fully prepared to really defend this really incredible project.
So I think also when I did Sphinx Tank last year, I made it a point that I'm a classical violist. I don't know anything about organizations and like the funding and the legal stuff behind it. And so luckily, I have family members that really know how to get any sort of information that we need. And so, my uncle, he's a lawyer, so he really, he would sit down with me and my parents and explain all the legal stuff. Sometimes, I didn't catch everything, but my parents were there to really, retain everything. My dad also, he helped a lot in this project. He actually drew all those pictures. No one knew he could draw, so yeah, he's a scientist, so who knew? But yeah, going through this process with my family has actually brought us, I think over the past year, a lot closer. So it's been a beautiful project to work on.
How did you manage to balance practice and your life and Kinderlute as a teenager? Because, as everyone in this room knows, they don't just let anyone into Juilliard. So obviously you were doing a lot of practicing and preparation alongside developing this.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it was really, really tough. Because I do focus a lot on performance, but I always make sure to credit my parents. My mom, or both my parents put so much emphasis on time management. And so I go through the day with a schedule. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna practice at this time, I'm gonna do my homework at this time, and this time I need to figure out what's going on within the organization. And my parents are a big help with that, because if I may seem overwhelmed or, seem like flustered and just have a lot going on, they will be sure to help me in whatever way that they can.
When I had the pleasure of having you as a guest on the Triloquy podcast, you told me the story of your Juilliard acceptance. I wonder if you'll share that story again here.
Yeah, so I was in my room at home, and I was practicing. And when you apply to Juilliard, there's like a portal, and you don't really. They didn't. I don't remember them really sending out emails. You just had to like check your portal, and to see like what was happening. So I had a friend who's a year above me at Juilliard. I think she Snapchatted me, and she was like, "Hey, I think the results for Juilliard, I think they're out right now. You should check." So I put my viola down, and I opened up the portal, and all I read was "congratulations," and I literally screamed. And I remember the house being dark, and it was just me and my mom that were home, and I ran across the house to my mom. She was in bed. She was taking a nap. I ran in, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, Mommy, you'll never believe this. I got in. And she was like, she was half asleep. She was like, "To what?" And I was like, I got into Juilliard. She was like, "Great." And then she went back to sleep. She was like, "Yeah, of course you did. Like, goodbye."
And she'd already put in plenty of work anyway, I'm
Yeah.
sure. So let's fast forward to your getting on the plane to go off to New York, to start this new chapter of your life. Did it feel like you were leaving Kinderlute or Come and I Strings behind, or did you kind of see it as a project that you could maintain while in school, far away?
Leaving home, I was concerned about how I would keep the organization going. And since Kinderlute was an idea that we were able to start while I was in school, that got my hopes up more about continuing the foundation and the mission, and hopefully being able to facilitate new projects in the future.
I wonder if the maintenance of this nonprofit mirrors or impacts in any way the maintenance of your musicianship.
I think working in the foundation and being able to, it's a lot of communication with others and a lot of communication with people that I may not know or may not be able to articulate what exactly it is that I need, because sometimes I don't know what I don't know, And there's a parallel to that within performance. Being able to work with others in, for example, a chamber setting, and being able to say, being able to gracefully bring up things that may need work within the group, or being able to even like put together like an ensemble for a performance. So there's been definitely a parallel between the two that I think has, throughout the years, has strengthened within that category.
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to Kinderlute and the impact that it's had with young musicians, have you gotten much feedback? What is the impact that you've seen with Kinderlute?
Yeah, so I've received a lot of like pictures and videos of teachers in their classrooms reading Kinderlute to their students, and the students are really responding. It's so cute, responding to whatever's happening in the book. And I've received pictures of parents reading with their students, parents that don't know anything about music, reading with their kids who are interested in playing string instruments, like for like a bedtime story. And I've also seen that it's also raised like more questions about taking care of instruments. Like I'll get messages from people who I may not necessarily know personally, but they'll text me and be like, "Hey, I have your book now, and it's so great, and I just had like a few more questions like about some things that have happened, and I don't exactly know what to do." So that has also been a really rewarding experience.
Maybe there is a parent or a family member in the audience tonight who's going to go home and, in some months, have a little one with a new instrument to take care of. What do you, when you were developing Kinderlute, what would you say was the most common mispractice when it comes to these new instruments? Is there something that almost every kid does to their new violin or viola?
Definitely broken strings. That was probably the number one. But we get some really strange things that I'm not even sure would happen. Like a bridge would be on backwards, and it's like, I don't like you. Why would you touch the bridge? Yeah. Like, there's nothing for you to do with that. Sometimes like strings would be like in the wrong place, like the E strings where the D string should be. I'm like, I don't know how that happens. You shouldn't touch the strings either. I don't, yeah, it's quite astounding some things that we've gotten. Yeah.
You shouldn't touch the bow hair either, right? That's something I learned.
It gets oily.
Right. Have you thought about developing Kinderloot offshoots, maybe Kinderloot Wins or Kinderloot in non-English languages?
Yeah, I would love to do that. I want to do those projects, and hopefully that will be in the future. But I'm a strings person, and I know absolutely nothing about winds and brass. That's like my mom's department, or like I would hopefully try and find like friends at school who really know a lot more than I do about that. And I don't know any other language, so I would want to find someone else to really help facilitate in that process, and that would be an amazing process to go through. So that's definitely hopefully in the cards in the future.
One of the conversations that I've heard floating around over the course of this conference so far is the idea of self-care, and as driven as we all are, it's important sometimes to take a breath. So, when you're not in the practice room and when you're not developing commonized strings, what are you doing? What do you like to do in the big city or back home in Florida?
So I don't get a lot of free time, but when I do, I like to sleep. That's fun. Love sleeping. So one of my best friends back at school, we love eating. So we go out almost every weekend. My parents know. And we go out and try and find like new places to eat in New York, and it's been a lot of fun. We started it this semester. I really love to watch Netflix. I'm watching Criminal Minds right now. It's good, yeah.
So in closing here, if there's anyone who's thinking about entering Sphinx Tank next year, maybe do you have any advice for them or any insights as a Sphinx Tank alum?
I would say, one, make sure it's a project that you really, really believe in. Even if you don't win or anything, this is still such a rewarding experience, and you never know who's in the audience. I know the candidates who were up here last year, all of us were contacted by someone in the audience that was interested in what we were doing. So even though you may not get the money or validation or whatever from the judges sitting in these chairs, there's someone in the audience that will believe in what you're doing.
And for people interested in purchasing Kinderloot, maybe even purchasing a classroom set of Kinderloot books, how can they do that?
So the book is available on Amazon. It's also, if you're in New York, it's in the Juilliard bookstore.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And for people here at Sphinx, my family has a table in the expo hall, so you'll get to meet music and EJ and my dad and my mom and my aunt and my whole family. And they're amazing. They're funny. Yeah.
My countdown started and then it stopped again, so I think we'll talk a little bit longer. Thinking back to this moment last year, when the judges were deliberating and you're just waiting to see what they say. Describe that moment for us.
So I was terrified. Yeah, I remember the room was probably this cold, but I was sweating, and my hands were so just clammy, and it was disgusting. Yeah, I think I was just like, I get very quiet whenever I'm like well, I'm quiet anyway, but I get like even quieter when I'm nervous. And I just remember just like sitting in my chair and just thinking like, no matter what happens, I think I did the best that I could, and whatever happens, like I'm glad I did this experience, and got to meet all these great people, and yeah, it was nice.
Yeah, and in reading and looking at Kinderloot, you make it very clear that you are a co-author. I wonder what the process was like working with your siblings on a project like this. If I'll be honest, if your relationship with your siblings was anything like mine as a kid, it wasn't always peaceful and tranquil. So surely there were some challenging moments, or I don't know, maybe there weren't.
I think actually it was a really fun process. Creating this with my siblings. Growing up, me and my sister didn't always get along, but me and my brother, we've always been best friends. And my sister, she's the middle, and my brother's the youngest. And just creating this book with them, I think it definitely brought me and my sister closer together. I don't remember the last time me and my sister actually had like a real like argument or whatever. But it was really fun creating this with them, and I think we all put in like an equal amount of effort to make the book what it is today.
Yeah. Well, Cameron, it's really been a pleasure to chat with you. Everyone, please help me thank Cameron and I Williams.
Thank you.
All right, is everyone ready for the Sphinx Tank's results? We're excited? All right, help me welcome back the panel. Oh, awesome.
Thank you, Garrett. Thank you, Cami. I'm just here coming back to thank our fantastic audience. I want to thank Garrett and Cami for sharing the story and engaging with you guys. Overall, this is an important program, and it's an important area of arts leadership in which Sphinx is investing. So it's a wonderful moment for us all to celebrate cultural entrepreneurship. So thank you for being here with us. With that, I'd love to thank our panel, bring them back up. Have a seat.
Well, we will actually do, if our candidates can all come to stage as well.
I'll stand by you and I'll just hand you that. Come on up.
So first of all, congratulations again to all of you. It really was just amazing to be able to listen to your incredibly hard work, your passion, and I have no doubt, and I know I speak for our entire panel, that the work that all of you are going to do is going to transform our field. And so it really was truly extraordinary, and part of the reason it took so long is because it was an incredibly difficult decision. And I know that a lot of times in competitive processes, people talk about that, but it really, really was. And I strongly encourage all of you, regardless of the results, to not only be in touch and to engage with our network partners, which will, I think, be very transformative for you, but also for the members of our panel, because they were impressed with all of you. And I think that there are a number of them who want to stay very engaged and supportive of the work that you're doing moving forward. So keep that in mind, and that will be your initiative that you guys work on. So with that, while it was very difficult, our panel was able to come to a decision. And so for this year, the winner of the Sphinx Tank Grant of $25,000 is Gabrielle Molina with Teaching Artists International.
Congratulations. Congratulations. And this is for you. Where's your results? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us. Keep in mind, anyone can apply. Go online, look up all of the criteria and all of that. Think about Sphinx Tank for next year, and thank you for joining us.